Peter tugged Sienna toward the back seat of the car. "Come on, kiddo," he said casually. Before she could settle in, Aldrich pulled her back. "Where?" he asked sternly. "Take your own car." Peter shrugged nonchalantly. "Sorry, dude, not polluting the environment when we're all headed to the same place. Your car has space for 3. Without waiting for a response, he climbed in, leaving Aldrich fuming. As Sienna tried to follow, Aldrich grabbed her again and shoved her into the passenger seat. Then, without further protest, he got behind the wheel, leaving Peter pouting alone in the back. Sienna turned up the music as they hit the road. Aldrich wore his usual haughty expression, while Peter sang loudly, deliberately irritating him. Sienna knew Peter enjoyed making Aldrich jealous. He always had. "Where are we going?" she asked. Peter echoed, "Yeah, where to?" "You'll see," Aldrich replied, speeding up along the empty roads. When they finally stopped, Aldrich announced, "Costa del Sol Beaches." Peter whooped and jumped out, Sienna trailing behind while Aldrich parked. "We'll play beach volleyball," Aldrich said. Peter was thrilled, bouncing like a child, while Aldrich remained composed. Sienna wasn't surprised. She knew what was next. The 2 boys would play, and she'd just sit and watch, like always. The beach wasn't crowded. Some people were playing golf, while others relaxed. The trio walked to the volleyball area. Peter grabbed Sienna's hand. "Come with me, Sia. You're on my team." Aldrich pulled her away. "She's my wife. She's on my team." Peter scoffed. "You need her to beat me." "You know I'm a legend in this game," Aldrich countered confidently. "I'll beat you today," Peter said. "Bet?" Aldrich asked. "What do I get when I win?" Peter grinned. "Whatever you want," Aldrich replied. Peter looked at Sienna with a mischievous smirk. She immediately stepped back. "No, don't you dare use me as an object for your stupid bet." But Aldrich nodded to Peter, ignoring her protest. Before she could react, she was hoisted onto a chair. Aldrich turned to her. "Don't worry, have I ever lost a bet where you were involved?" She shook her head. "Then," he asked, "I'm not a kid anymore." "You may have grown physically," he chuckled, "but mentally, still a kiddo." The boys took their positions on either side of the net. Sienna, arms crossed in frustration, watched as they bickered and played. This ritual was familiar. Whoever won got to spend the day with her, while the loser kept away. Aldrich never let Peter win before, but the thought that they used her as a prize now made her uneasy. They argued over the final point. Aldrich claimed victory. Peter protested. Both turned to Sienna for confirmation. "I wasn't watching," she admitted. They had reduced her to a trophy, and she refused to play that role any longer. "She's scared to admit you're wrong," Peter teased Aldrich. "She's scared to be alone with you." Aldrich frowned. "Don't argue unnecessarily." Then he approached Peter. "Accept defeat like a grown man." "I didn't lose," Peter countered. Their fight escalated, and Sienna feared it would get physical. She grabbed the ball. "Stop it already." "Let's have another round," Aldrich said. "No," Sienna cried. "I came to relax, not watch you 2 fight." "We promise it'll be quick," Aldrich pleaded. "No means no," she yelled and ran off with the ball. Peter begged, 15 minutes, please." Instead, she hurled the ball, only for it to bounce off a bald man's head. The man turned furiously toward her. Sienna froze in terror. As he stomped forward, Peter and Aldrich blocked her path, shielding her. Sienna peeked through their shoulders, only her eyes visible. The man stared, then turned and left in silence. But now Peter and Aldrich were glaring. She smiled sheepishly to soften them. It didn't work. Before they could say a word, she ran. They chased her, both catching up at the beach, where she tripped and fell on the sand. Aldrich caught her just in time. Later, as they sat watching the sunset, Sienna admired Aldrich's rare laugh. To her, nothing was more beautiful. When he sensed her gaze and turned, she confessed, "I've never seen you laugh before." Her hand reached out, pinky brushing his. He pulled away, but then gently intertwined his pinky with hers. Sienna's heart skipped a beat. "Jet skiing?" Aldrich offered suddenly. "Absolutely!" She beamed. He helped her up and fetched a water scooter. Peter was already busy elsewhere. Aldrich returned, and Sienna joined him. He sat behind her, close enough that she could feel his breath near her ear. They glided over the waves. As the wind rushed past them, she giggled, her hair dancing across his face. She turned to see him smiling softly. "You still think I'm boring?" he asked. "Do you care what I think?" she teased. "No." "Then?" "You wouldn't understand," he chuckled. She stayed quiet, then he asked gently, "Is something bothering you?" "I didn't like being used as an object for a bet," she confessed. Aldrich softened. "I didn't use you like that. You're my strength. I never would have involved you if it wasn't Peter. I know him well. He'd never win, and thinking about leaving you with him, it made me try harder." Though still unsure, she let it go and leaned on his chest for the rest of the ride. After dinner and a walk on the beach, they returned to the villa. Sienna collapsed on the couch, exhausted, while the boys continued their debate. "Go change," Aldrich insisted. "No," she groaned. "You'll get a neck sprain." "I'm fine here," she said, rolling over. Drained, she didn't even check where Peter had gone. Moments later, she was lifted from the couch and placed on a bed. Aldrich lay beside her, still in his dirty clothes, first. As she drifted to sleep, she felt his arms wrap around her and a kiss on her temple. His last whispered word was filled with emotion. "Sorry. Look, kiddo, what I have made for you. Now both of us can live in this huge castle alone. We will play all day and no one will disturb us," 12-year-old Peter said to 8-year-old Sia. "Thank you, Peter, but I have made my own house. See?" The little girl points at the small house, which she has made up of mud. "This is enough for me to live." Sienna giggles. "Why will you stay in a separate house? Are you forgetting you live with me, so you are going to stay with me in the castle that I have made for you?" 12-year-old Aldrich declares his order like a king and forces Sienna to face him. "But Mama says that one day when my father will return, then we will leave your farmhouse and shift in our own small house," Sienna argues in her sweet, innocent voice. "No, you will not go anywhere. You will stay with me forever," Aldrich says, getting angry at the thought of getting separated from Sienna. "But Mama says that nothing lasts forever, so we do have to stay at different houses. We can't stay with each other forever." She comes back in a meek voice. "Don't you feel good with me? Why do you want to go away from me?" Aldrich asks in a serious tone. "I feel very happy when you're around me, but Mama says that I have to live." Before Sienna could complete her words, Aldrich picks up a stone and destroys the small mud house made by Sienna, which brings tears to little girl's eyes. She was working on it for the past half an hour. "I will destroy everything and everyone who will come between us and morph them in the mud, just like this small house." Aldrich points at the mud, which was once a house, which makes Sienna cry even louder. "Richie, stop it. Can't you see? She is crying." Peter jumps in between, but one deathly glare from Aldrich was enough for him to keep his mouth mum. "Cry or do anything, but this is final. I am not letting you go anywhere. You are staying with me forever," Aldrich yells at her, which provokes the girl. "You will see one day I will leave you," she says, in between her sobs. "No!" he yells at the top of his lungs. "No!" Aldrich jolted upright, his eyes snapping open as his chest heaved with heavy breaths. Sweat glistened on his forehead. He shut his eyes again, releasing a deep sigh in an attempt to calm himself. Just a dream, he thought, swiping his damp brow, but the haunting feeling lingered. That childhood game, so innocent back then, had become an all-too-real prophecy. She said it. One day, she'd leave me. Aldrich exhaled sharply, turning his head to reach out, instinctively seeking the comforting presence beside him. His hand met only cold sheets. His eyes flew open again. Sienna wasn't there. Blinking several times to clear his vision, he pushed himself up on his elbows, scanning the room. Empty. Dread began to crawl under his skin. He got out of bed, heading straight to the bathroom, and knocked. "Sienna?" he called out. Silence. He pushed the door open. It was empty. Frustration coiled tighter in his chest. Where the hell was she? Turning around, ready to search the villa, his gaze caught a sudden movement outside. He froze by the glass pane, staring out at the pool. There she was. Sienna danced through the water like a child, splashing with abandon, laughter curling in the air. His heart slammed against his ribs when she surfaced. She was wearing a bikini, a freaking bikini, and the sight of her soaked, shimmering body made his blood run hot. Desire surged, unbidden and fierce. Aldrich's feet moved without permission. He strode from the room, down the stairs, passing the kitchen when Trevor, the new staff, stepped into his path. "Good morning, sir," Trevor greeted cheerfully. "Breakfast is almost ready." "I'll have it with Sienna," Aldrich said curtly, trying to move past. "She's in the pool," Trevor added, with an excitement in his eyes that made Aldrich's vision darken. He halted, turned, narrowed his eyes. "You saw her going there?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. Trevor paled. No, don't lie to me." Yes, Trevor confessed, shrinking under Aldrich's glare. Rage pulsed under his skin, but he clenched his jaw, forcing himself to take a sharp breath. "She came down, asked for breakfast. I didn't know I assumed she... I don't want to see you or anyone else in this villa for the rest of the day," Aldrich said coldly. Sorry. Vacate the place, now or I'll fire you." Trevor didn't wait. He bolted. The rest of the staff scrambled after him, not daring to look back. Once silence returned, Aldrich walked to the pool. Sienna's bare back was to him, lost in her own world. When she turned, sensing him, her smile faltered the moment she saw his face. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Isn't it obvious?" she replied with a shrug. "Don't give me that attitude. Get out now," he ordered. "What if I don't?" She rolled her eyes. "You have no idea how much trouble you're in." "Neither do I want to know. Just let me enjoy myself for an hour," she replied, diving back under. Infuriated, Aldrich didn't hesitate. He peeled off his shirt and dove in after her. When he came up, she surfaced too, face to face, breathless, the water clinging to her skin like a second layer. She looked ethereal. Sunlight kissed her wet skin. Her lips, his favorite addiction, were pursed, teasing him without meaning to. Jealousy raged inside him even for the droplets that touched her lips. He crushed his mouth against hers. She gasped, but didn't pull back. Instead, she melted into the kiss, meeting him with equal fire. No kiss had ever felt like hers. It wasn't just passion, it was possession, addiction, chaos. He deepened it, one hand wrapping around her neck, the other tangling in her soaked hair. She yelped slightly, and his tongue took the opportunity, sliding into her mouth. Their tongues danced, hers growing bolder, hers learning. She was still catching her breath when he finally pulled back, his forehead resting on hers. He had come to discipline her, but like always, she'd undone him. "Don't you think you deserve punishment?" he asked, voice low. "For what?" she asked, feigning innocence. "You knew male staff were around," she nodded. "And still, You came out wearing this? He gestured to her exposed body. Don't you think that's a bit too bold? Don't you think you're being a bit too bossy? She quipped back, raising an eyebrow. I'll go wherever, however, and whenever I want. Before she could dive again, he wrapped an arm around her waist, dragging her against him. No one, he growled in her ear, is allowed to see you in these clothes, except me. Or else, she dared him. I'll rip out his eyes, he snarled. He meant every word. Aldrich nipped at her earlobe, earning a gasp. One hand gripped her breast, while the other slid across her abdomen, downward. As if I'll listen to you, she muttered, but her resolve crumbled in his hands. Her body betrayed her, already giving in. You have to, baby, he whispered. He sucked the water from her neck, his hand groping her breast, the other inching lower. Her chest heaved with every breath, tension knotting between them. Why? She breathed. He slipped his hand into her bikini bottom, cupping her possessively. Because, he growled, you belong to me. Sienna stirred in her sleep, her stomach growling softly as hunger clawed at her senses. She shifted and realized she was tightly curled up next to Aldrich, who was still sound asleep. Her neck and ribs ached from lying in the same position for too long. His arm was firmly wrapped around her waist, holding her close, like she might escape if he loosened his grip. Her fingers moved gently toward his beard, brushing it playfully. The subtle movement disturbed his sleep, and his eyes fluttered open. You up? He asked, voice heavy with sleep. Yeah, I'm starving, she replied. We didn't even have breakfast, and it's past lunchtime now. Go and have something. Who's stopping you? He mumbled. You, she said, matter-of-factly. Huh? You're still holding me, she smiled, trying to nudge his awareness. Oh. He blinked in sleepy realization. She smiled softly and waited for him to release her, but he didn't. Go, he said again. Sienna raised her brow and shot him a pointed look. His hand was still snugly wrapped around her waist. Finally, he sighed and let go, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. She wriggled out of bed, pulling the duvet with her, only to remember she was still unclothed. She tugged at the duvet, but it wouldn't move. When she looked up, she realized Aldrich was holding the other end. Give it to me, she demanded, yanking at it. Why? He asked casually. What do you mean, why? I'm not wearing anything. So? His eyes brazenly scanned her silhouette. Are you hiding something new from me? Aldrich, don't tease. I need to go. I can't walk around naked. He smirked. Wow, so you're shy about being naked. What about me, huh? Is this what you call equality? His brow arched. Even I need to preserve some dignity, right? Sienna huffed, jaw tight. She didn't have time for his games, not when her bladder was protesting. She turned abruptly and rushed to the washroom, covering herself with her hands. Your butts are getting sexier. He whistled behind her, laughter echoing as she slammed the door shut. After a quick bath, Sienna emerged dressed and composed. Aldrich was still in bed, one arm behind his head, the other scrolling lazily through his phone, completely unclothed. She placed her hands on her hips and arched a brow. Now you don't need to hide your dignity? Nope, I could stay like this all day, he said smugly. You shameless creature. Go get dressed, she muttered, throwing his clothes onto him and heading to the kitchen. In the kitchen, she found half-cooked food and realized Aldrich had probably dismissed the staff mid-preparation. She shook her head and began making noodles for herself. She even chopped vegetables to prepare something healthier for him. 10 minutes later, he walked in, thankfully clothed this time. You didn't take long, she noted, stirring the pot. I was worried about my precious property, he replied smoothly, flashing a grin. Sienna rolled her eyes. What if you'd set the kitchen on fire again like last time? I can't afford renovations every month. This food is dangerous. That's why you're always lethargic, he muttered, eyeing her noodles with disdain. Keep your eyes away from my food and stop giving lectures. She hadn't forgotten the time he'd tossed her pasta in the bin and forced her to eat boiled vegetables. Not today. You want some? She offered out of habit. Number, I love my health too much. Or your money must be jealous of your health, she teased with a chuckle. He glared playfully and walked away. They sat at the table to eat, just as his phone rang again for the umpteenth time. I'm going to my study. I have an event to attend tonight, he told her. Her expression froze. That means I'll be alone in the villa? Just for a few hours. I'll be back early. No, she blurted, his brows creased in concern. I mean, it's okay. I'll ask Peter to keep me company, she added quickly with a weak smile. No, he said firmly. You're coming with me. Get ready. She stared at him. Did he just ask me to go with him? To a party? Before she could respond, he was already gone. Later that evening, on their way to the event, Aldrich received a call that immediately darkened his mood. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He growled into the phone. He ended the call with a heavy sigh. What happened? Sienna asked gently. He didn't respond at first, staring out the window in silence. Then finally he spoke. Alexander Miller. He's been trying to ruin me for years. This event wasn't meant for him, but now he's here. That means trouble. Sienna placed her hand over his clenched fist, calming him. I wouldn't have brought you if I knew he'd be there, he added, meeting her gaze. It's okay. He can't harm me as long as you're with me, she said, meaning every word. He looked away. You won't understand. At the event, Aldrich leaned close. Stay by my side, he whispered. She nodded. For the next hour, she remained at his side as he entertained guest after guest. His usual cold persona softened only slightly as he engaged with the crowd, but Sienna eventually grew bored and her thoughts wandered. Good evening, Mr. Lionel, another man greeted. Aldrich offered one of his rare smiles and shook hands. Do you mind if we talk privately for a few minutes? The man asked. She's my wife. You can speak in front of her, Aldrich replied. Sienna, sensing the tension, interjected gently. It's okay, Aldrich. Please go. I'll wait here. He looked at her. Don't move. She smiled and nodded. As Aldrich left with the man, she sipped her wine and tried to stay occupied. Suddenly, someone bumped into a bartender nearby. The tray slipped, and wine splashed across her thighs. Oh my God! She exclaimed, jumping up. Are you blind or what? Someone snapped at the young bartender. It's okay, I'm fine, Sienna reassured the boy. The man who scolded him turned, and Sienna's eyes met his. Early 30s, sharp features, molten grey eyes. Authoritative, but not as intense as Aldrich. You need to use the washroom, he said, eyeing the wine-stained fabric. Yeah. I can show you the way, he offered. No, it's okay. I'll manage. Come on, I don't bite. He smirked and walked away, hands in his pockets. With Aldrich nowhere in sight, she reluctantly followed. He led her to the washroom and stood in the doorway, arms folded, watching her reflection through the mirror. His gaze was distant, like he was lost in thought. When she finished, she turned. Thanks for the help. The pleasure is all mine, he replied. Alex, he added, offering a handshake. Sienna, she replied after a slight pause, shaking his hand. I saw you with Mr. Lionel, he said, his tone changing. Yes, he's my husband. Aldrich's voice cut in sharply from behind. Sienna turned. Aldrich stood with fire in his eyes, fists clenched tightly. He strode over and wrapped his arm around her waist protectively, his presence instantly calming the racing of her heart. The tension between the two men was suffocating. "Not bad, huh?" Alex muttered, giving Sienna a slow once-over. "Not her, Mr. Miller," Aldrich snapped, pulling Sienna close. Alex's eyes stayed locked on them as they disappeared into the crowd, that smug smirk never leaving his face. And then it all made sense. Mr. Miller, Alex, Alexander Miller. Sienna called Aldrich from their room, peeking out the door as she needed his help. Aldrich, busy in his study, emerged only when he heard her voice. Irritated, he shouted from the study, disliking any interruptions during work, a reason he usually dismissed his staff early. When she told him she needed help, he followed her into the room, asking lazily what she wanted. Sienna simply replied, "Sanitary pads." Aldrich's eyes widened in disbelief and confusion. "Do you want me to go out to shop?" he asked hesitantly. Sienna confirmed. He refused to leave his work for that thing, which angered Sienna. She warned him not to speak dismissively about sanitary pads. As the argument continued, she reminded him that he had sent all the staff home, and thus had no option but to help her. When Aldrich asked why she hadn't packed essential items, she explained that she never expected to stay there for 6 months and couldn't fill her bag with just one item. Aldrich, frustrated, asked if she had tampons instead. Sienna said she didn't feel comfortable using them. In disbelief, Aldrich questioned her femininity, annoying her further. When he tried to offer a solution by ordering online, she snatched his phone and threatened to break it if he didn't leave immediately. Eventually, Aldrich agreed to go, but insisted she accompany him since he had never purchased such items before. Sienna empathized and agreed, asking if he could also buy her some chips. Aldrich, who restricted junk food, was confused, but Sienna insisted, craving something spicy. He commented that girls usually crave chocolate, to which Sienna responded she was different. After Sienna used the washroom, Aldrich prepared the car and asked their bodyguards to join them. Sienna questioned the need for bodyguards when they were merely shopping for sanitary pads, prompting Aldrich to silence her mid-sentence, worried about his reputation. At the mall, Aldrich parked while Sienna rushed in to use the washroom. When she returned, she found him loading their cart with multiple packets of sanitary napkins. She giggled, telling him it wasn't necessary to buy so many, but he insisted, just in case she sent him again. As she declared they had enough, Aldrich paused and added several packs of condoms to the cart. When Sienna teased him, he claimed he only bought them because his stock was running low. As they proceeded to the snack aisle, he remembered her chip request and asked for the flavor. "Hot and sweet chili," she replied, her mouth watering at the thought. He chuckled and tossed her a large packet of chips, which she caught with excitement. Back in the car, she opened the bag loudly, catching his attention. He told her to grow up, and she responded by sticking out her tongue. When he stared at her while she ate, she playfully offered him pieces of the chip, breaking them down to half, then quarter, and finally 1/8. Eventually, he gave in and ate it. The playful exchange continued until Aldrich, still acting disinterested, drove them back. On the way, Sienna got distracted by a stunning white skater dress ad on her phone. Her excitement grew until the car suddenly turned back. Aldrich announced they were returning to the mall, this time for himself, and once inside, he headed to the men's section, grabbed yet another white shirt, then offered to buy Sienna a dress. She refused, but Aldrich insisted and pulled her toward the women's section. It was the first time in 6 months he let her shop for herself. She selected 6 dresses, but had a hard time choosing one. Aldrich, accompanied by a girl holding 5 more dresses, encouraged her to try all of them. Inside the changing room, Sienna tried dress after dress, only to be met with Aldrich's disapproving gestures. Frustrated, tired, and overwhelmed with mood swings, she was on the verge of tears. Aldrich then handed her one final white dress, promising it would be the last. She took it reluctantly without looking. To her surprise, it was the same skater dress from the ad she had seen earlier. She was shocked and suspected Aldrich had somehow seen her phone. Dismissing the thought as coincidence, she changed into it. Expecting another "no," she stepped out, but Aldrich gasped. His eyes roamed from head to toe as he declared, "We are taking it!" Not just that, he instructed the assistant to pack all the dresses she had tried on. Sienna, stunned, questioned him. Aldrich replied possessively that no one else should touch what had already touched her skin. He reassured her that he was serious and deeply possessive about his treasures. He kissed her forehead and urged her to change, joking that since he couldn't have her that day, he'd fill his stomach with food instead. Sienna giggled and went back to the trial room. After paying the bill, Aldrich stood waiting. When Sienna asked why, he pointed to the 15 shopping bags and asked who would carry them. Sienna replied simply, "You." Aldrich was shocked but complied after a brief argument, folding his arms defiantly. As they prepared to leave, Sienna reminded him that it was his idea to shop, and he had stopped the bodyguards. She offered to return the items, but he declined and began piling bags on himself. Sienna proudly helped him load up. People in the mall started staring at Aldrich, who was buried under shopping bags, and Sienna tried not to laugh. "You'll have to pay for it," he grumbled under his breath, hiding behind the bags. Sienna giggled to herself, enjoying the moment. She thought about how Aldrich, a man who had never carried even a needle, now juggled dozens of shopping bags. For her, she felt proud to have made him do something he would have never done otherwise. Shouldn't she? After keeping the bags at the back seat, Aldrich and Sienna came out to eat something as they were starving. He took her to one of the restaurants and she just followed him blindly. She occupied the seat beside the glass, which gave a beautiful view of the city. "The view is breathtaking," she murmured. "Isn't it?" She looked at him to find him busy on his phone. He just hummed in response, not even giving a glimpse of the sight. He always stayed busy, either on call or emailing clients. Getting irritated, she snatched the phone from him. "What the hell?" he shouted. "What are you doing?" "The thing that I must have done before," she said, keeping his mobile on her lap. "Sienna," he warned. "Aldrich," she called him, trying to copy his tone but failed. Anyway. "Please, Aldrich, for once come out of your business and see the world. See the colors, the beauty, feel it. Your world is centered only on one thing." Her voice held irritation. "Indeed," he came back, his eyes boring into hers, and for the first time, she could not see the greed of money in those brown orbs. "Now give me my phone. I was typing an important email." Her nose flared in anger. In the last 6 months, for the first time they had come out, and all he cared about was work. She wasn't going to eat here when he stayed busy with work. Enough was enough. "Fine." As if some divine energy overpowered her, she stood up and slammed his phone on the table. "We are going back home. There you can do as much work as you want. At least I will be having television, which is still better than seeing your expressionless face stick to your mobile." She said everything in so much rage that her body started radiating heat. He was looking at her with wide eyes and parted lips. She knew he was going to burst at her for comparing him with the television, but she didn't care. After letting the storm out, she felt like crying. He was messing with her emotions on the worst days she didn't understand her own mood. Turning on her heels, she started walking away, only to get pulled back and pushed into the chair again. "We are not going anywhere. Sit here," he threatened before taking his seat. "I hate you, Mr. Aldrich Lionel," she spat, folding her arms and looking away. "Whatever the feeling is," he said, without turning his head. She moved her eyes to look at him. It is mutual, Mrs. Aldrich Lionel. He smirked. Oh, how much she wanted to scratch his smirk off. From now on, she vowed not to cut her nails. They could prove to be a good weapon against him. The waiter came to them, pausing their hating session for a few minutes. How may I? 2 plates of Waldorf salad. Aldrich jumped in without letting the waiter complete himself. He nodded and was about to turn when Sienna stopped him. Will you send someone else to take my order? She asked, a little annoyed. No, ma'am, I thought, he started. What you thought doesn't matter, she snapped. She knew she sounded a little rude, but she was really mad. Bring me 1 burger, 1 Coke, and French fries. He noted it down. You're not going to eat that shit. These days you should eat something healthy, Aldrich said. The waiter's eyes trailed down and stopped at her stomach. She instantly hid it and turned around to face Aldrich, so the view of her stomach was blocked by the table. He is thinking that I am pregnant, she realized. What? Aldrich said angrily, which made the poor man look at him. Just do your work and bring my order. And mine too, she added. I said something. Aldrich looked down at her. I said something too. My health is my problem. I will eat what I want to eat. Why do you care? Do not poke your nose in between. She ranted and slammed her hand on the table. I will, he grunted, before turning his attention to the waiter, who flinched from the threat in Aldrich's eyes. If you love your job, then do as I am saying, Aldrich commanded. The waiter nodded frantically. And if you love your face, then do as I am saying, Sienna added, threatening him too. The poor man gulped down in horror while his eyes darted between the two of them. This time, she wasn't going to bend in front of Aldrich. What's the matter? A familiar voice said from behind. As the man stepped forward, Aldrich stiffened and the air around them thickened. He was none other than Alexander Mill. But what was he doing here? Oh! Alexander's eyes shone with amusement when he saw her. Hello, Sia. Sia? She had told him her name was Sienna. How did he know the name her loved ones used? Maybe he broke the name into 2 by himself. She looked at Aldrich, who was shooting deathly glares at Alexander, then greeted Mr. Miller in a low voice. I think you have forgotten me, Alexander said, his forehead creased. No, I remember you, Alex. She forced a smile and looked back at Aldrich, whose eyes were now narrowed at her. Nice, he said, with a wide smile, turning to Aldrich. Hello, Mr. Lionel, he greeted. The waiter bent and told Alexander everything before leaving. He was the owner of the restaurant. Okay, I will call you in a minute, Alexander said, and the waiter left. If I am not disturbing, can I join you? He asked. She looked at Aldrich for permission, but he was busy shooting cold glares. Not replying would be rude, so she said, Yes, why not? Answering on Aldrich's behalf. The icy glares Aldrich was giving Alexander now turned to her. They sent chills down her spine. Unable to meet his eyes, she looked away as Alexander sat down. I'm glad my restaurant is bestowed by the gracious presence of Mr. Lionel. Alexander smirked. If I knew you owned this place, I would never have visited it, Aldrich replied blankly. It was clear he despised Alexander's presence. Then it is good for me that you were unaware. Otherwise, I would not have gotten the chance to meet you. Alexander turned to Sienna, increasing the discomfort. Silence returned until Alexander broke it. So you were ordering a burger and French fries, right? He asked. Sienna nodded. Don't worry, I'll give you company, he said, signaling the waiter. 2 burgers, 2 Cokes, French fries, and 1 plate of Waldorf salad, please, he ordered. 3 burgers, 3 Cokes, and French fries, Aldrich added. The waiter and Sienna gasped. What? Aldrich burst. The waiter fled, tripping on his way. By the way, I am surprised by the workaholic man hanging out during working hours, Alexander teased. I am also human, Aldrich replied. Indeed, Alexander chuckled. Love could make you do anything, he said, turning to Sienna. Isn't it, Sia? She's Mrs. Lionel to you, Aldrich interrupted before Sienna could answer. But we became friends before she was Mrs. Lionel, Alexander argued. When did that happen? Sienna thought. She never befriended him. Isn't it, Sia? He asked again. She gulped in horror. She felt like that poor waiter, caught between two dangerous men. Their glares made her lose her appetite. Trying to end it, she moved her hand to grab something, only to collide with Alexander's. Let me help you, he said. Aldrich's eyes burned a hole through his hand. Thank you, but I can help myself, she said sweetly, though it tasted bitter to Alexander. He masked his offense behind a smirk. Better to offend him than to further anger Aldrich. They ate in silence. Aldrich's eyes were glued to Alexander, while Alexander stole glances at Sienna. She tried nibbling her food, thinking maybe she should have just eaten that salad. She had half a burger and some fries. She was full. Aldrich called for the bill. It's okay, Mr. Lionel. Let it be a treat from me, Alexander offered, grinning mockingly. Aldrich's fist clenched. I don't take treats, he said, swiping his card. And don't worry, I won't stop you from paying when I own this restaurant. Only time will tell who's going to be what, Alexander shot back. Their eyes locked in another Cold War. Come on, Aldrich said to Sienna, pulling her away. See you soon, Alexander said to Sienna with a sinister smirk that sent chills through her body. Outside, Aldrich pinned her to the car door. Why was he calling you Sia? He demanded. I told him my name the other evening. He must have guessed it himself, she said. He got your information, Aldrich insisted. Did he hear about our wedding? The contract? Sienna hesitated. Lily, Aldrich exhaled sharply. Call her. Tell her not to mention it to anyone. Not even the walls. Are you scared of him? She asked suddenly. He paused. Yes, and that's because of you, he admitted, cupping her cheeks. You don't know him, Sia. He's not what he seems. He's jealous of me. He wants to destroy me, and now that I've blocked every path, he's trying to reach me through you. But I'm not your weakness. We're only married for 1 year. You don't even love me, she reminded him. He went silent, swallowing hard. For the world, you are my permanent wife, he said, his eyes locked with hers, breathing heavier now, his voice held raw honesty. I love you. Sienna was spending her Sunday sitting beside her husband on their bed. The only difference was that he was busy with his work while she scrolled through memes, giggling in between. Her distractions were clearly irritating him to another level. Since it was Sunday and she had nothing else to do, she lounged around. Her boss-cum-husband was generous enough to grant her Sundays off. Her phone pinged again, and Aldrich looked at her with pure annoyance. She mumbled a quiet, sorry. Just as Aldrich tried to return his focus to work, her phone started ringing. Before she could even check the caller ID, Aldrich nearly yelled, Why is Peter calling you? She glanced at her screen, which flashed, pitter-patter. That I'll know after picking up the call, she said, giving him a tight-lipped smile. Put it on speaker, Aldrich ordered. Hell no! Sienna's eyes widened. There was something called privacy, and Aldrich clearly needed to learn about it. Why? Is there anything you're hiding from me? He asked suspiciously. You know what? You're a psycho and need urgent medical help, she retorted, cutting off his next words. Now keep your mouth shut like I do when you're on the phone, she added, before answering the call. Yes, Peter, she chirped. Sweet as honey for others and bitter as hemlock for me, Aldrich muttered, loud enough for her to hear. That depends on how the person treats me, she said, sticking out her tongue at him before returning her attention to the call. "Shh," Peter yelled, dragging her name. "Are you even listening to me?" "Yes, I'm sorry. I'm here," she replied, sobering up at his tone. "I need your help. Please don't say no," Peter begged. "What happened? Are you fine?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. Aldrich noticed and immediately snatched the phone to put it on speaker. Peter explained that his photo shoot was falling apart because the model had fallen ill. Sienna was the only one he could rely on. Aldrich and Sienna went silent. "Please don't disappoint me," Peter begged again, desperation clear in his voice. Before she could respond, Aldrich's voice boomed, "Duffer, you scared me." Peter, confused, asked when Aldrich started sounding like Richie. "He's gone mad," Peter muttered. "Don't worry, Peter. Just share your location," Sienna finally said, snatching the phone back and ending the call. Aldrich looked at her in disbelief. "You didn't ask me before declaring your decision." She ranted about Peter being her childhood friend who'd helped her immensely. She couldn't break his heart just because her husband disapproved. Aldrich's concern wasn't with helping Peter, but with the kind of revealing clothes used in modeling. "I'm not allowing this. You're not going anywhere, and that's final," he declared. "I'm your wife, not a slave," Sienna snapped. "I'll do what I want. You can't stop me." She stormed off to change. Aldrich argued she couldn't leave anyway since all their cars were out for servicing. She replied calmly, "There's something called a cab." "But for that you have to walk miles." "I'm used to it. Perks of growing up in a middle-class family," she shot back, heading toward the closet. Aldrich's POV. 10 minutes after she left, Aldrich became restless. He couldn't focus on work whenever she wasn't around. Suddenly it hit him. Cab drivers were on strike. He panicked and rushed out, grabbing a helmet and taking off on his bike. Following the route she might take, he eventually spotted her walking down the street, oblivious to her surroundings. He slowed the bike to approach her, but she hadn't recognized him, likely because of the helmet. When he tried to grab her arm, she reacted with a punch to his Adam's apple, then to his chest. "You jerk! Because of you, girls fear to walk freely," she yelled, hitting him repeatedly. He finally caught her wrist mid-air. "Leave me!" she screamed. "What if I don't?" he asked. She recognized his voice and gasped. "Aldrich!" "Surprise, surprise," he said sarcastically, removing his helmet. Her face turned red. Still gripping her wrist, he pulled her close. "How dare you punch me?" "I'll not only punch, but also kill the person who tries to tease me," she declared fiercely. Amused, he kissed her nose. She gasped. "Ho!" "Oh!" he mimicked, provoking her. She retaliated with a punch to his nose. He yelped in pain. "That's what you get for kissing me without permission," she scolded, readying another punch, but he caught her wrist. "I guess I'll have to tie your hands to the bedpost tonight," he muttered, rubbing his nose. She tried to free herself again, but it was no use. "What do you want, Aldrich?" she asked, irritated. "You," he replied. "We are on a road," she said, scandalized. "I want you to sit with me on the bike," he clarified. "You always need me." "I didn't call you for help," she flared. "You came on your own. Go back to your work." He reminded her the cabs were on strike. "So? I can walk," she insisted. He donned the helmet again. "Don't be so stubborn. Come and sit." "I can and I will walk. I'll prove I can do anything without your help," she yelled before running off. Aldrich followed slowly on the bike, knowing she'd tire eventually. But when a speeding bike with 2 boys stopped beside her, his blood boiled. Before he could act, she slapped one of the boys and came running back. The boys sped off after seeing Aldrich's furious expression. She climbed onto the bike without a word. He chuckled, putting on his helmet. "Shut up!" she punched his back. But I didn't say anything. You dare to say anything, she warned. He grinned. His lamb was turning into a lioness. I'm getting late. Accelerate the bike, she ordered. As you say, ma'am, he replied, smirking. Aldrich smirked and started the bike after declaring, As you say, ma'am. He waited for Sienna to hold him, but her hands never reached him. Adjusting the mirror, he directed it toward her face. She was silently enjoying the ride. The cold breeze danced across her skin, making her hair flutter over her cheeks. Her lips formed a slight pout, while her blinking eyes reflected innocence. She was undeniably beautiful, but at that moment, Aldrich craved her touch. He couldn't keep glancing at her while riding, so he applied the brake abruptly. Sienna gasped as she fell forward, her chest pressed against his back, sending a jolt of electricity through him. When she sat back in place, Aldrich groaned inaudibly. This wasn't what he wanted. He pressed the brake again. She fell onto him once more, this time bumping her forehead against his helmet. Irritated, she asked while rubbing her head, What are you doing? If you don't want to fly away, hold on to me, really tight, he instructed. Obediently, she wrapped her arms around his shoulders and leaned onto him, resting her cheek on his back. That contact was indescribable. Aldrich had never felt so content. He found more satisfaction in that moment than he ever did in sex. He vowed then, from now on, they would always ride bikes. Everything about this was new to him. He had never stayed in contact with a woman after a night together, not even Delia. But Sienna was different. She made him feel things he knew neither of them were supposed to feel. By year's end, he feared they would regret it. Though he wished the ride would last longer, they reached the shoot location. Sienna offered a dry, "Thank you," as if she had done him a favor. She waited, expecting him to leave, but Aldrich parked the bike and joined her. "Aren't you going back to work?" she asked. "Number, what if you need my help again?" he teased. She rolled her eyes and turned away. Suddenly, she let out a sharp, "Ow!" and held her backside. "What the hell, Aldrich?" she yelled, wincing. "Be thankful I've slapped only once," Aldrich smirked. "Roll your eyes again, and I won't hesitate to bend you over this bike and give you 20 spankings. Right here, I'm dead serious." Aldrich's hands itched to follow through with the threat, but she simply huffed and walked away, frustrating him. Peter came rushing up. "Oh, Sia!" he exclaimed, looking on the verge of tears. He hugged her tightly. "You're my savior. You've proved that a friend in need is a friend indeed." Aldrich seethed at the sight. Even Peter's touch ignited his fury. No other man was allowed to touch her, because she was still his wife. "You don't know how happy I am to see you," Peter said, cupping her cheeks. "I love—" "Excuse me," Aldrich interrupted sharply, pulling Sienna away from Peter's arms. Peter quickly corrected himself. "I mean, I love your helping nature." Aldrich glared. "Better." "It's okay, Peter. Don't stain our friendship by saying thanks over and over," Sienna said, offering Peter a dazzling smile, one Aldrich had never seen directed at him. Peter clapped his hands. A few girls approached and led Sienna away. Aldrich, standing alone, muttered, "Why does she always seem happier around you?" Peter replied without hesitation, "Simple. I'm her type." "What do you mean by her type?" Aldrich asked, suddenly intrigued. "I don't have time to waste on you. I'm busy." "Fuck off," Peter said, rolling his eyes. "How? When you have my wife?" Peter stared at him in disbelief before stepping closer. "Whoa. Since when did President Aldrich Lionel start staying loyal to one woman?" he mocked. "Shut up, Peter. Just tell me what you meant," Aldrich snapped. Peter finally gave in. "Once she told me she hates you." "I know. Tell me about her type," Aldrich pressed, wanting to understand what Sienna truly wanted in a partner. Why are you so obsessed? Peter retorted. She's your wife, right? Oh, really? Then why don't you ask her yourself? Peter scoffed, returning to his work. Aldrich scanned the busy set. People were everywhere, setting lights, checking cameras, walking around in skimpy outfits. Wait a minute. Were they planning to dress Sienna like that? Peter noticed the alarm on Aldrich's face and reassured him. She won't be wearing that. It's a global release. She'd be uncomfortable in them. Peter was the only one who could read Aldrich's face so effortlessly. Then what is she going to wear? A wedding gown. A wedding gown? Yes, it's a wedding photo shoot. That means she'll pose with another guy. As a groom? Not just pose, kiss too, Peter added with a mischievous smirk. Aldrich stood up so fast his chair fell over. Are you serious? Serious for work, irritated by you, Peter sneered. This is not happening, Aldrich growled. I won't let it. Pack up, he shouted. Peter jumped up, flustered. Have you gone mad? This shoot will cost me crores. I don't care. I won't let another man kiss her. Peter looked furious. Aldrich, come to your senses. This is important to me. Don't ruin it because of your freaking obsession. Obsession? Aldrich repeated, lips curling in anger. Peter didn't hold back. You've been doing this for her since we came back after college. I didn't stop you when it was healthy, but now you're becoming a psycho. You know what? Aldrich said. What? You know nothing. Before Peter could respond, Aldrich added, Don't we have another option? No, Peter shouted. Then I'm going to be the groom, Aldrich decided, looking toward the vanity. What? Peter gasped. Aldrich nodded. In the past, he'd turned down every request Peter made for shoots or scenes, but this time he'd do it, for Sienna, because as long as she was his, no man would touch her. Peter grinned. But I'm not paying you anything. I'll take double. Aldrich smirked and walked off. Bang on! Peter shouted gleefully from behind. Aldrich stepped out onto the set, dressed in groom's attire, anticipation fluttering in his chest. Despite having done photo shoots before, something about this one felt different. It was more intimate, more real. He likened it to a reversal of roles from their wedding day. Today he was the one waiting, just like Sienna had waited for him then. His eyes searched the space, yearning for a single glimpse of her. And as though the universe answered his silent plea, she appeared. His breath caught in his throat, and his eyes widened. His fitness tracker betrayed him, beeping uncontrollably, revealing his elevated heartbeat to the world. Peter chuckled nearby, but Aldrich, flustered, tapped the tracker repeatedly to silence it. Closing his eyes, he took a few calming breaths, and when he opened them again and saw her once more, the tracker resumed its insistent beeping. Frustrated, he ripped it from his wrist and threw it aside, ignoring the gasps around him. Sienna looked ethereal, as though beauty itself had taken form. Aldrich couldn't help but stare. Her radiance, the charm in her innocence, and the purity in her expression overwhelmed him. She had never looked this beautiful, not even on their wedding day. At first, she was surprised to see him, eyes wide, lips parted. Then, regaining composure, she glanced down and blushed, her cheeks turning a deeper red. All Aldrich wanted in that moment was to gather her in his arms, kiss her cheeks, and claim her as his own. But a question haunted his heart. But for how long? Pushing the doubt aside, he focused on her. She approached slowly, avoiding his gaze. Peter's voice broke the moment, shouting at the crew to return to work. We need to start the shoot within 2 minutes, he warned. As the team dispersed, Peter gave Aldrich a knowing smile and left, giving them a moment of privacy. Sienna still refused to meet Aldrich's eyes. Gently, he lifted her chin with his finger, letting his gaze devour her delicate features. You're looking very beautiful, little lamb, he murmured. Her eyes flickered to him in surprise, clearly remembering the affectionate name he had once reserved for private moments. She smiled shyly, but couldn't speak. He leaned in to kiss her, but once again, Peter interrupted them with a loud, throat clear. "I called you here for work, you horny animal," Peter said, tapping Aldrich's shoulder. "You can continue your romance in your bedroom." Aldrich groaned as cameras surrounded them again. A woman approached with rings. "Let it look natural, not forced," Peter said, pointing at a series of photographs from their actual wedding, each of them looking stiff and unnatural. "So relax," he added in a hushed tone. "Forget about the hatred and just act like you're still in love." Aldrich and Sienna nodded. Peter took a step back. "Richie," he called out teasingly, making Aldrich glare, and everyone, including Sienna, laughed. "Don't laugh or I'll spank you right here," Aldrich warned, his voice serious. She sobered instantly. "I mean, Mr. Lionel," Peter corrected himself sheepishly. "Please, put your hands on your wife's waist and pull her closer." Aldrich complied, pulling Sienna to him, her body colliding with his chest. She blushed furiously, but so did he. His anger dissipated in her presence. "Sia, place your hands on his bicep," Peter ordered again, and she followed. They looked into each other's eyes, the world fading around them. Aldrich placed his forehead on hers. The moment turned quiet and magical. When the camera shutter clicked, he adjusted their pose, pulling her impossibly close, her hands resting on his chest. He kissed her forehead, feeling a tug deep in his heart. His lips lingered longer than necessary. Her calm, yielding body in his arms made him wish time could freeze. But as always, Peter ruined the moment, sending a girl to hand Aldrich a ring. Aldrich took it, confused, and Peter grinned. "If you two keep posing like this, my album will break all records," he said. "What am I supposed to do with this?" Aldrich asked, showing him the ring. "Sex," Peter replied flatly. "What?" "Dude, you're supposed to kneel," Peter clarified, jabbing a finger into Aldrich's chest. "President Aldrich Lionel on his knees." Aldrich resisted, but Peter smirked. "You still have another option," he said devilishly. Aldrich knew Peter had found his weak spot. "Fine," he muttered. "Good." Peter grinned and left. Sienna beamed. "You're very happy, aren't you?" Aldrich asked. "Oh, yes," she giggled. "The man who never bends for anyone is kneeling for me." "You're lucky," he said. She smiled, looked deep into his eyes, and whispered, "Indeed." "Come on, Aldrich," Peter shouted. "The sun is setting." With a sigh, Aldrich dropped to one knee, took Sienna's hand, and slid the ring on her finger. Bringing it to his lips, he kissed it. Her fingers twitched at his touch. Her eyes shimmered as they locked with his, both filled with shared emotion. The spell broke with applause. She pulled her hand back, and Aldrich stood as the makeup artist rushed over. Peter began instructing them again, and they resumed posing. After some time, Aldrich grew frustrated with Peter's endless demands. "Tonight I'll get my revenge," he vowed silently. Then came Peter's next command. "Now I want a perfect kissing scene. Sia, lean back so the sun shines between your necks." They faced each other. Though they had kissed countless times before, this felt new. Sia seemed nervous, while Aldrich was newly energized. She placed her hands on his biceps as he wrapped his arms around her waist, helping her bend. "A little more," Peter said. Aldrich adjusted to support her. "Is it hurting?" he asked. "Your hand is not letting me endure the pain," she whispered. He nodded, and their faces drifted closer. Her gaze flicked between his eyes and lips. She licked her lips, igniting his restraint. "Oh, girl," he thought, "don't make it harder for me." Their noses brushed, their breath mingled. He pulled her even closer, so close there was no space left between them. She blushed helplessly in his arms. His mind flashed back to their wedding day when anger robbed him of this intimacy. But not this time. He leaned in, only for Peter to yell, "Freeze!" Aldrich cursed silently. They froze in place until Peter allowed them to move again. But Aldrich no longer trusted him. He leaned in gently, pressing a soft kiss on her lips. Just as he prepared to deepen it, Peter shouted again, "Perfect! No need for French kisses, lovebirds." Aldrich groaned. Sienna looked disappointed. "It's okay, baby," he thought. "Tonight I've planned everything." After a few more shots, they were finally released. They changed, ate, and went home. Peter thanked them endlessly, but Aldrich felt it was he who had done Peter a favor. Back home, while parking the bike, Aldrich spotted Sienna heading to their room. He locked up and followed, instincts taking over. He hoisted her over his shoulder and spanked her playfully. "What the hell, Aldrich? Put me down!" she protested, struggling. "Get ready for tonight, baby," he said, grinning. "You made me wait too long." He tossed her on the bed with a bounce and declared with a wicked smile, "Let's consummate our real wedding, wifey, shall we?" She gasped, her eyes wide in shock as he chuckled.